So, huge amount going on today. I've got queens coming out the incubator. I've got nukes that I made early spring that I need to get feeders on today because the flow finished a week ago. And now the queens are growing that I put in. And it's all absolutely brilliant. But now's the time to get things done because I've got 3.5 weeks before our summer flow starts. And there's everything to organize so that the remaining colonies I've got, the colonies that I've made over the spring, are all going to give me honey. That's what I've got to aim for now, and also to keep the momentum going for queen rearing. And because of that, I've made another load of queens. These are the latest load I've made, but they're all hatched out. Well, not all hatched out. These in front have hatched out, and I'm just marking these now. And the ones at the back are due to hatch out any minute, so I'm constantly having to check those and check those. So I did a huge batch, and this was in a batch I wasn't expecting to get many from because I did what they call a flash graft. In other words, you just use the same builder without adding anything to it. But because it's just after the flow and it's spring, you can get away with it, and you just write the builder again to what it was for starting cells, and just graft away. And usually they accept a load of cells. So what I'm doing here, I'm marking a few of these queens before I go out for the day, and I'll try and show you. So I'm marking these queens. I'm taking each one out of, obviously what I've done is they've emerged. I've removed, this morning I came down and realized that a couple had died because I hadn't fed them and I wasn't expecting them to hatch so quick, but they did. So we've got some lovely queens here. These are a Keld mother queen. And these are going to be open mated in my apiaries, and also some are going to be inseminated this week. So a couple little things about handling queens. Don't be afraid to handle your queens. There's two ways of doing it. You can use the wings like that, because queens have handles, okay? And you can put your finger there and she'll try and grip your finger while you're holding her. Or you can hold her by the head like that. And you're not doing any damage to the queen like that. Okay, now this is easy because it's in the inside environment, okay? When I mark my queens, I just kind of get her like this, and I just kind of move her around a bit, and you can do this with her a bit, you know, until you get her. The best way to mark queens, I think, when you're in the incubator stage, is like that. You hold them between your fingertips. And sometimes, to be honest, some days you find it easier to hold them than the others because you almost lose your dexterity sometimes because you've been doing other things with your hands. But when you're rested, you can see the thorax there, you're clear of the antenna, you get your paint, and you can just dab it on there. Okay? Never put too much on, and never ever get the antenna. Because if you get the antenna covered in it, she'll supersede later on in her life. What I'm doing is I'm marking these few now because I'm actually going to take these out with me because I've got some colonies that are queenless. Because obviously I've introduced a load of queens into nukes, and invariably you do get a few that are that don't get accepted. I've got a lot of black bees still, or queens that were made last year and naturally mated. So they're younger colonies I took the splits from, but they're black bees, and our black bees here don't accept pedigree queens very well, pedigree virgins. Your colonies have to be hopelessly queenless, with no way possibly of making a new cell from anything other than what you give them. So you can put in a running virgin or a virgin that's strong. That's the beauty of having an incubator here as well, is if your virgins have been born and that you fed them, and you know you can introduce a load of queens into a lot of colonies that need them. In other words, you say you've got 5 or 10 in an apiary, or 2 or 3 apiaries that you can just go to, boom, 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 and the queens are 24 hours old or 12 hours old. They've had that chance to have a little bit of a feed, they're marked, you've looked at them, and you introduce them, there's every chance they'll do really well and go off and mate. Now, obviously, I would prefer to have them mated in my yard where I've got all my best stocks, but that's just the way it goes. So, I will be putting these virgins into, as I said, into nukes and a few hives that I did artificial swarms with in the spring, earlier this spring, that have made queen cells. Yesterday I went in and cut out the queen cells, so they've had a night. The queen cells were basically on day 9 and 10, so there's no way now that they could make a new queen, and now they realise they're hopelessly queeners, and they'll accept these queens. And because they're marked, I haven't got to do anything to them after. Yesterday I went in and cut out the queen cells, so they've had a night. The queen cells were basically on day 9 and 10, so there's no way now that they could make a new queen, and now they realise they're hopelessly queeners, and they'll accept these queens. And because they're marked, I haven't got to do anything to them after. I'll just go back in a week, see their marked, see their mated, and because they've already had a day in the incubator, that's 1 day less before they want to go out and start looking for drones. So by having an incubator, another one of the bonuses is you can see what the queen looks like. You can check she's not got any deformities. You can see she's strong, she's healthy, and she's ready running, and she's well fed. And when you put her in a colony that maybe have some bees that are a little bit like more aggressive than some, you know, we'd all love to have bees that are so docile and not runny and still on the frames. But that isn't the case. But as long as you've got a good virgin, a running virgin is the best thing it cures most problems. It cures laying workers if it's not too advanced. You know, it's always accepted if the colony's hopelessly queenless. While I'm here as well, I'm just showing you how I'm giving my nukes the best possible care I could do. So this is a nuke that was given a queen in a cage with a candy plug because I didn't have enough resources to do the pushing cage, and it was going to take too long to do it for each one. So I had these queens ready. So what I've done is they were 4 frames, 1, 2, 3, 4 of bees and brood, and 3 frames of bees and brood from a strong spring colony, and a frame of honey. Now yesterday I came in, I checked that the queen was laying, and 9 out of the 10 were, and the other ones that were not were given the 2 actually out of the 12 that weren't accepted, because sometimes my dark bees rejects them even after they've had the cells cut out, and then you give them nothing, they still kill the queen. But overall they're all good, fantastic. Well, what I like to do is I've taken out the 2 frames of the partition on the outside, and yesterday I gave them a new frame there and a new frame there. Well, it's actually these 2, because this colony is so good that what I did was I moved this frame of honey to the edge where it should be normally, and I put the new frame there, so it forces them to build. I know there's young larvae on this, young larvae on that, and that one probably's got a bit, but they're going to want to expand, so they need feed, and we've got a dearth on. So I've just put a feeder on. They'll just come up and start feeding that. You can see straight down in there. I usually do this and just dribble a little bit in to show them where the feed is, but they'll find it anyway, but it's something I like to do, you know. But then at the front, I've also given them some protein, a little pollen sub, a little pollen patty. So look at them all over it, look. The thing is, you know, I want these bees to possibly give me summer honey in 3 weeks, or maybe 4 weeks or 5 weeks. They might just get the end of the flow when they're big enough. But if I can get that queen given the maximum she can possibly have and use with the bees I've got, it means that pollen sub I'm giving them may just help them fill a super now, because I'm giving it to them now. And then even if they don't, I'll give them the space, and the whole bottom box will be full by the time the end of the flow comes with honey and bees and brood, and I can then split that colony and make it ready for the winter and take a nuke from it. So I'm making an awful lot of splits from all of these. These are all probably give me summer honey and give me a split at the end of the year. And that's how I've made up my losses, is by just working really hard and making sure that everything is given the best it could with the time it's got, because we've got a bit of a dearth now. There is flowers around. You can see we've got these dock in flower now, and dock actually gives a lot of pollen. They're just coming into flower, but all we need is a few. You can see how much there's here in this field. I don't really want to cut it, but I'll have to cut this bit in front of the hives because it needs doing desperately. But all over there you can see that whole field is full of pollen from dock leaves, and there's still a few things around. There's still some broom, but these are the brambles that are starting to get ready, and there's the chestnut trees. You can see they've got their little tassels on the end if you look carefully, but the tassels are 3 weeks off flowering yet. And the brambles, there's no buds yet. So it's all there to play for. You just have to push these nukes that I made early to get them ready, so that next year they'll definitely be colonies, but in the meantime we've got to use them for as much as we can, but in their time working with the bees, just giving them what they can with nice young queens and keeping them well fed as much as we can. That's all I can do. But at the end of the day, that's what you have to do, and you've got to give them everything you can. So they've got feed, they've got pollen sub, and we're just going to leave them alone now to grow, and then hopefully in 2 weeks they'll have filled out that, and then if there's 3 frames of brood there, that's 6 frames of bees when it all hatches out, which it will be. In 3 weeks time they'll be into the super, and then there'll be a flow on for 4 weeks after that, and hopefully will give me a super. So it doesn't, as I said, it doesn't matter if it doesn't, it's just everything's in place if they can, and if they can, I take the honey, and then afterwards I get a split. So everything I'm doing now is still giving me results this year. You know, this is what it's all about. It's just looking at what you got. You can see these are queenless. Look, these bees are so excited to see this queen. There she is. I've got a little clip I want to show you of a cell I found from my cell builder a couple of days ago. And the cell, I put it in my frame, my grafting frame, which I haven't got here. I've got one up there, but so I put it in my grafting frame, one of these, grafted into the cups. The cup fell out, the holder, the white holder, the cup fell out of here, and it fell down between 2 frames. And where it fell is where the bees made that cell. So it's just a fantastic example to see how dynamic the bees are. And when they're in that state of hopelessly queenless in a huge colony that's begging for larvae, it shows you how prolifically effective the bees are at drawing anything you put in that colony that contains a larvae of the right age. And there's people that go on all the time about how they're struggling grafting, how they're not getting good results grafting. I can tell you, hands down, 99 times out of 100, it's not your grafting. They will accept anything if you've got your builder right. If your builder is strong, prolific, full of nurse bees, which is how it should be, they will draw up anything. And that's the proof. You watch this little clip and you will be quite amazed at where they built this cell. And the biggest problem for me is I count my cups in and count them out, because if I miss any, I want to know where those cups are, because I know these builders I build are so good. I know they're going to draw up every cell I put in. I've got to make sure I find out. If she falls on the base of the colony, in other words, she falls right through all the frame, often they won't build that if it's on the bottom. But if she's anywhere on the frame, if the cup's anywhere on the frame in a place that they can build it, they will build it, and a virgin will be there. So if you do a set of grafts, take them out, give the colony a rest, restock it, if you then put your new graft straight in to that top section of that builder, they will all fail, because that virgin will have hatched out. And this is what that point is all about. It's just to make you aware that you need to be doubly cautious. It's not just screening the box out for queens while we use the shaker box. It's checking there's no other cells in there that you've missed that will develop and wreck your queens, or kill them as they are in the process of being raised. And remember, this is the same old statement. Mike Palmer coined it. You cannot have a cell in a cell builder. End of. Okay, and it's definitely all in the jelly. So this is just a little video to explain that, and I'll show you the clip now. But I'll be doing some other videos next week, and I'll catch you again soon. Bye for now. So this is the standard frame that came out my cell builder, and it was some brood I added late, but I added some more brood as and when I could. But there's something odd about this frame where you look in the middle, you find out why. Can you see it? There. Now that is what you call a Maximus pain in the arses, because that is a cell cup that fell off and landed and jammed between the frames in the middle. But because this colony was so hopelessly queenless, and because the bees were in that emergency mode of draw up anything they can, they just drew up that cell. Even though that larvae was probably jolted as it landed, they still drew it up. And there you have a queen cell, a queen in there about to hatch. And that cell I might not have noticed, and it will hatch out, and when I put my next set of grafts in, bam, finished. Just shows you how careful you've got to be. Account for every queen cell you have. Because if you don't, you're heading for a big, big problem and a big loss of cells. That's the ones you got to watch. Have a good day.